Welcome to the No Quit Living podcast, where we aim to inspire and motivate people to never give up on themselves or their dreams. We will chat with highly successful people from all walks of life and discuss what motivates and drives them to successfully attack life head on and never give up. Welcome to episode number 18 of the No Quit Living podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Worth, and today's theme of the day is staying positive. Our quote of the day comes to us from Harvey Mackay. All the technology in the world will never replace a positive attitude. This episode of the No Quit Living podcast is brought to you by the I3 Initiative. In today's society, it is so easy to get caught up in the drama, negativity, and uncertainty in the universe we are a part of. Against those challenges, we are committed to make the world a better place through improvement, impact, and integrity. You are invited to join our mission and learn more about our book club, membership, live events, and mastermind at i3initiative.com. That's the letter I, the number 3, initiative.com. I'm extremely grateful to bring you today's episode. Our guest is someone that I've looked up to for many years. His work has inspired thousands of individuals, teams, and corporations to do and become their best. As a successful best-selling author and one of the most sought-after speakers, he continues to motivate and inspire each and every day. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce Jon Gordon. Jon, I'd like to welcome you to the No Quit Living podcast.
Great to be with you, Chris.
Appreciate it. So unfortunately, there seems to be a lot of negativity flowing throughout the media today. As our number one objective is to motivate and inspire our listeners, I wanted to ask if you had a personal story about perseverance or perhaps a challenging time that tested you, but you kept on going and never quit.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it's called My Life has been one big story of that. I mean, I have like probably 20 stories of having to overcome and the grit to keep moving forward and succeed. I mean, even in high school, I was never the starting running back outright or the starting midfielder in lacrosse outright. I always had to work my way into the starting lineup. And I remember even telling coach I wanted to be first midfield in lacrosse, and he laughed at me. This was going into my senior year, because junior year, I didn't even see the field. But I worked all off season on my game, worked the wall every day, throwing the ball against the wall with my right and left hand, really working on my stick skills. And I showed up to practice, start of the season, and just from that moment on, just worked really hard. He gave me a shot in one of the games. I won a bunch of face-offs, scored a bunch of goals, came up to me afterward and said, "Hey, congratulations, you're first midfield," and winded up playing lacrosse at Cornell University, 9th in the country, my freshman year. So it was a great example that, you just work hard, you do things the right way, and you stay positive and great things happen. And I took those kind of lessons to my life. When I wrote The Energy Bus, it was rejected by over 30 publishers. And I just had to stay positive. I had to just keep dreaming and hoping and praying that somehow, some way it would get out there. And my agent even said I should probably give up, but I couldn't give up. And then finally we sent it to John Wiley and Sons, because we hadn't sent it there. And the reason why we sent it there is I was at a bookstore and I saw a book by John Wiley on the shelf that they had published. And I thought, oh, we should send it there. They're a business publisher. So we sent it to them and they wound up publishing it. Comes out, and not one bookstore would carry the book. And so I had to go on a 28-city tour, paid for myself, to share the message in the book from city to city, sharing the message. 5 people in one city, 10 people in another, 20 people in another. The most people we had were 100 people in Des Moines, Iowa. They thought Jeff Gordon was coming. That's why they showed up. And so, true story. And it was real frustrating, but I just did it one day at a time and just sharing the message. And here we are now, 10 years later, and a book that bookstores wouldn't carry, and no one came to see me on tour, but year after year, day after day. Oh, it took about 6 years for it to become a bestseller. And then now 10 years later, it's frequently a bestseller and has sold over 1 million copies. So I would say that's an example of having to work hard and overcome. And I tell people that story because, I don't want to say, oh, look at me, look how many books I've sold. No, that's not the story. Because to me, it's not like I'm impressive. I just work hard, but it's a lesson for people that if you really just show up every day, do the work, ignore the critics, stay positive, eventually, eventually great things will happen.
That's an incredible story, and I think many people can relate to that in different areas of their life, whether it's sports or business or professional. But Jon, many of our listeners are interested in personal development and always looking to improve different areas of their lives. I was curious if you had a favorite book that had a significant and positive impact on your life.
Well, there's just so many books. I mean, I love John Ortberg, who wrote Soul Keeping. He wrote All the Places to Go. Uh, God is Closer Than You Think. It's just a great book. Mark Batterson, who wrote The Circle Maker, is great. Chase the Lion is one of his new books. Really like him. He encourages me. Oldies but Goodies. I mean, 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard. Who Moved My Cheese was a very important book to me during the time when I lost my job during the dot-com crash and was thinking about, what I needed to do next and the change I was going through. So that was really helpful. And so was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because it taught me about wanting to build something on my own rather than, always working for a paycheck.
Now, those are some great books. Speaking of books, I know that you are a best-selling author of many books, and I have to admit that I've read all your books, including your recent new release, The Power of Positive Leadership, which I thought was.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I thought it was excellent. I've actually recommended it to quite a few people. But in your writing, you talk about that you always weren't this positive, and I wanted to inquire, if you don't mind, what changed and how did you become so positive?
Well, I'm still not naturally positive. I still have to work at it. Some people are born that way. Others aren't. It's really in our DNA. But the good news is we can cultivate it. We can mold it. We can become more positive. So it really came to a head in my late 20s, early 30s when my wife and I were fighting a lot, not getting along. And she had had enough of my negativity. And she basically gave me an ultimatum. I needed to change. And that began the journey of saying, okay, why am I so miserable? Why am I so negative? Why aren't I living the life that I always imagined I would be living? Because I wasn't happy with my life. And I remember praying and just saying, why am I here? What am I born to do? And writing and speaking came to me. I never did that before, but it came to me. And I said, okay, I'm going to write and speak. And that began the journey of trying to become more positive. And then I started writing and speaking about positivity. It became my life's work. So it's funny. We teach what we need to learn and we want to improve ourselves.
That's an interesting quote. We teach what we need to learn and want to improve ourselves. That's interesting, and it leads me to my next question is, because you are such an extremely successful author and speaker, I know you've had the opportunity to work with many high-profile collegiate as well as professional sports teams. This might be a tough question, but have one or two teams or coaches really stood out? And do you have a favorite coach or team that you've worked with?
Well, it's hard to have a favorite because, again, you work with a lot of them, and I love a lot of the coaches I get to work with. I mean, Clemson clearly has to be one of my favorites because I worked with Clemson football for 5 years and went through the struggles and the obstacles and the challenges ultimately to watch them win a national championship. That was just truly special. One of the great moments of my life to be on that field when they're winning a championship. I mean, to run out on that field, to win a championship, to be right there with the team, to watch all the hard work that they put in, to watch the coaching staff, and to know that I was able to play a small part, in their success was key. Training camp was a big part of their program, a book that I wrote, Energy Bus, The Carpenter, Love, Serving Care. And then to hear Dabo talk about, his one word for the year, which was love after the championship, and said how he told the guys our difference was going to be, the difference for us was going to be the way we loved each other. And to see that play out was so cool. Again, he's such an incredible leader. I don't take 1 ounce of credit for their success. I just provide tools. But a leader like him uses it and then reinforces it by the way he leads and the team he develops and the coaching staff that he has. So Dabo's probably my all-time just favorite in terms of working with him the longest, the relationship we have, and then to see him lead the way he leads. And also Mike Smith with the Atlanta Falcons, of working with Mike and just being with the Falcons for 7 years, every training camp. And Mike and I wrote a book together, You Win in the Locker Room First. And he's just such a great leader. And, Dave Roberts with the Dodgers, I love him. Doc Rivers with the Clippers. I mean, he's amazing. Billy Donovan, Oklahoma City, love Bill. I mean, incredible leader. Eric Spoelstra with the Miami Heat. Just I can go on and on with so many great leaders. Sherry Cole at Oklahoma, Corey Close, UCLA basketball, amazing coach. Rhonda Revelle, softball, Nebraska. Christine Halfpenny, coach at Notre Dame. Jeff Tambroni, coach at Penn State. Kevin Corrigan, lacrosse coach at Notre Dame. Just like John Tillman, coach at Maryland, just incredible leaders all across the board. Like that's the thing. Like when you're bringing someone like me in, you're not going to be like some negative energy vampire coach. You don't bring someone like me in if you don't believe in it. So I seem to work with coaches and leaders who believe in this message and are all about positivity, developing great relationships, and that leads to some great work that I get to do with amazing people.
Now, it reminds me of a quote by Elbert Hubbard, is positive anything is better than negative nothing. And I think you mentioned is that you have the tools in regards to helping these coaches, and you've been very fortunate through your hard work to work with some great coaches. I'm jealous in that way. Here's a tough question for you, and I think it's probably an impossible question, just like asking a mother or father which one of their kids are their favorite. But of all the books that you've written, do you have a favorite as far as an experience or just actually writing the book?
People say that they don't have a favorite with their kids, but everyone really does.
Well, I'm just full and fair disclosure. I have a brother and a sister, and I am my parents' favorite. So yes, I agree with that.
Like I definitely know that my brother was my mother's favorite, and I would say I was my dad's favorite. So just know that. But I love all my books. Energy Bus is special because it's the first one. But if I had to pick one, it would be Training Camp. I just love that book. I love the heart of that book, the message. And for me, I would just say that's my favorite in terms of the way it touches people.
No, I think both of those, you could not go wrong on either of those. They're great books, and I've read them. And I've used a lot of your stuff in my coaching career, as I've been a former college basketball and high school basketball coach. So here's a question for you. I know a lot of people that are successful in all walks of life have either a morning or a daily ritual that they can say has helped them to their success. And I was curious, do you have either a morning or a daily ritual that you feel has helped you both professionally and personally?
I would say it's the walk of gratitude, the thank you walk of just walking and saying what we're thankful for, and while you're walking and doing that, it's been such a key thing because the research shows you can't be stressed and thankful at the same time. So if you're feeling grateful, you won't be stressed. So just this thank you walk on a daily basis of gratitude and prayer, flooding your brain with these positive emotions and thoughts that uplift you, rather than the stress hormones that slowly drain you. That's probably my number one ritual.
No, that's an awesome ritual, and you've referenced that in many of your books.
Yeah, it's where most of my ideas have come from. Also in writing my book. So on those walks is when I get all my great ideas.
It's funny. Many people that have been on the show have mentioned that it's either during these morning or daily rituals that a lot of them actually take some time to really think and great ideas, whether it's books, movies, coaching, or sports or business related. So I think it's not funny, but it's very ironic how you mentioned that in your walk of gratitude, a lot of your great ideas have come. So if you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Anyone dead or alive? Definitely Abraham Lincoln.
Awesome.
Can I share a few?
You can definitely share. It's a loaded question. You can share a few. And actually, before you share a few, just want to mention that Abraham Lincoln has actually been referenced the most in regards to the actual person. So you definitely fall under a category of people that want to have dinner with him. And I myself, he's on my list as well.
Okay. Definitely Marilyn Monroe. If I was single, of course. But I'm just kidding on that one. Jesus for sure. No doubt. I mean, how could you not want to meet with the person who the world keeps time based on his birth? I mean, that would be a great meeting and a great I would love to ask a lot of questions of him.
I would like to be a fly on the wall during that dinner as well, because I think I would probably get a hand cramp from taking all his notes during that dinner.
I know.
In addition to your newest book, The Power of Positive Leadership, I was curious if you're working on anything else exciting that you'd like to share with our listeners.
I am. And it's actually going to be a follow-up to The Power of Positive Leadership. It's going to be The Power of a Positive Team. So I'm going to take all this work that I've done with teams and write it in the same mode that I wrote The Power of Positive Leadership. Not a fable, but more of a how-to with a framework of great teams and what great teams do with each other and how they lead together and how they work together and how they come together and ultimately create success together.
That's awesome. When is that coming out?
I'm not sure. I got to write it, but I'm beginning the process now.
Okay. So, Jon, as life is extremely challenging in many ways, what drives you personally every day to keep going?
It's definitely my purpose. I mean, it's to inspire and empower as many people as possible, one person at a time, to make a difference, to encourage, to uplift. And it really is about, waking up saying, okay, how can I make a difference in the lives of others? So it's either writing or speaking. And every day, that's what keeps me going. I'm really not very happy or energized unless I'm doing something like this. I found like it's just what I'm born to do, and when I'm doing it and I'm helping and uplifting, that's really when I feel best. I mean, when I'm on my own, just even playing tennis on my own, I mean, that's fun, but nothing is like doing this work and making a difference.
No, and I think you can definitely see it, and I feel it and read it in your work, and I think anybody that's worked with you or read some of your books can definitely see it and feel it in your work. So before we let you go, I wanted to ask if you had any parting words for our audience.
Parting words. So many people are dealing with fear and negativity. And I think it's something that everyone needs to understand and realize and really address so they can bring more power to their life. I've heard it said that the number one thing that can keep you from your goal is fear. It's the second most powerful force in the universe, right? It's fear. But there's one greater power, and that is love. So whenever you're feeling fear, the key is to bring love to what you do, because love casts out fear. And so if you love it, you won't fear it. It's also important to understand that fear is a liar. Negative thoughts are lies. I ask people all the time, do your negative thoughts come from you? And a lot of times they say yes. I say, yeah, really? Who would ever choose to have a negative thought? You would never choose to have one. They're not coming from you. They come from consciousness. They come from a spiritual place. But just because you have a negative thought doesn't mean you have to believe it. Don't believe the lie. And if you can understand this, when those thoughts come in, don't believe it. Don't give any credence to it. Don't give any energy to it. And definitely don't repeat it. Don't start saying that as a pattern in your own thought process, in your own words, in your own language. Don't believe the lie. Know the truth. Take a sheet of paper down. On the left-hand side, write down the lies that those negative thoughts tell you and what does fear say. On the right side, write down positive thoughts to counter those lies. Write down truth. What is the truth? And the truth is, you're wonderfully made. The truth is you have all the power in the world to be successful. The truth is we don't create our world from fear. We create it from love. Now, if you're creating from fear, it's because fear is dominating you and you're believing the lie. But true power, true creation comes from love, and that's where we really create amazing success.
No, and that's a great point in regards to you shared earlier about Dabo Swinney, and his word was love, and obviously you could see that his players gave it their all, and his last 2 years, if he never coaches a day again, losing the national championship and then coming back and winning it, you can definitely see it through his players, and I really appreciate you sharing that. So here's the last question, and I promise it's an easy one. What is the best way for our listeners to connect with?
Oh, they can connect with me at jongordon.com, JON Gordon.com, or Twitter, Instagram at JONGordon11, at JONGordon11.
Now, was 11 your number?
11, no. 11 was, Jon Gordon was taken on these Twitter things, and I have JONGordon.com. It's funny, the guy who took Jon Gordon was upset that I took JONGordon.com, and so he was more advanced in the social media world, and so he was able to get all that stuff up, but gobble that stuff up. But 11 comes from, I see 11 all the time, like 1111, 111. It's like a real spiritual number for me. That's why Energy Bus is number 11, Training Camp 11, Seed 11, Carpenter11.com, 11 Principles. For some reason, 11 keeps coming up. And when Clemson was on this run to the national championship, Dabo texted me the night before, and it was 11:11 when he texted me. I screenshot it. I sent it to him. I said, hey, check this out. The next night when I was writing The Power of Positive Leadership, I'm writing about Dabo and Clemson and the year before and the adversity that he had, how he overcame the year before. I looked down at my clock on my computer. I never look at the time on my computer. It was 11:11.
That's awesome.
And I screenshotted that as well. So I had proof. And after I didn't send it to Dabo, but I waited till after they won it, and I sent it to him. I said the signs were clear.
No, that is awesome. Well, listen, I truly appreciate you being on our show today. You shared some great stuff with us, and I look forward to hopefully speaking with you soon.
Hey, thanks so much, Christopher. Appreciate it.
To sum up today's episode and our theme of the day, staying positive, Jon Gordon clearly practices what he preaches. His passion for what he does and helping others clearly shines through his work as both an author and speaker. While sharing his personal stories, Jon mentioned the importance of staying positive, whether it was his desire to start on his high school lacrosse team, getting fired during the dot-com bust, or initially having his first best-selling book rejected over 30 times. Jon was very clear that when you stay positive, great things happen. He also spoke about how being positive is something that he still works on today. He touched upon his daily ritual of taking a walk of gratitude. He mentioned how research shows that you can't be both grateful and stressed at the same time. In his parting words, Jon spoke about both fear and negativity, and that the number one thing that keeps most people from accomplishing their goals is fear. He shared why it is so important that when negative thoughts do come about, we don't believe them, give them any credence, and definitely don't repeat them. So the question for you is, what type of attitude do you have? Are you looked upon as a positive member of your team, your family, or your company? How do others look at you? Please remember that the one thing we can all control is our attitude. So if you can be positive, why would anyone ever choose to be negative? I challenge you, no matter what today brings, bring a positive attitude and go for your greatness. And lastly, to our listeners, thank you. We truly appreciate your time, and we hope our episodes inspire you to keep on attacking life and never giving up. To quote Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, it's always too early to quit.